Hello and welcome back to South American Contenders. We have game 2 ready for you. It will be the Suquinho Nation versus INTZ Esports. And I'm still here with Naori and Paulsable. How are you two excited for this next game?
Oh yeah, it'll be hype.
Yep, still us, still here, still amped.
Yes, so this game might be a little bit closer and has some playoff contention. So Paulsable, right now, what are the stakes for INTZ Esports? What happens if they win?
Well, INTZ Esports, they have to win, right? They have to win today to keep themselves in the running. And they have to hope that Quad in our next game loses. Otherwise, they will be eliminated from that playoff potential, right? And then, I mean, even then, they're kind of living on a prayer because next week they have to go up against Base Tryhards for their last match.
Ooh.
Just saw Base Tryhards. They've yet to drop a match. So, I mean, you're kind of, you're hurting at this point, right? But it's not over, and you still can look forward to your team as a whole. And even if you don't make playoffs, get relegated, you can come back in next season with some strengths.
And even though INTZ is hurting right now, TSN might be hurting a little bit more. Naori, why is that? What have they lost?
Yeah, so we spoke about this on our previous desk before our last match, and that is that Lubok has been yoinked from TSN and moved on to Base Tryhards. Losing Lubok is huge, and you will know this if you watch the last game with us. He is a phenomenal DPS, and losing that extra little bit of power is really going to hurt TSN's chances. They've now got Darken moving from the off-tank onto the DPS role, and they've brought in a new off-tank in Dagosim. Okay, so Darken, known to be able to flex that off-tank and the DPS. So probably a good choice putting him back onto the DPS, especially considering in the current meta, Goats being so strong. You don't see a lot of DPS, but still, can he live up? Can he fill the shoes that Lubok has left behind?
So there are some major questions for the identity of TSN as we do go into this next matchup, but they are at 1 and 2. So they also are in the position similar to INTZ where they do need to win this matchup. Really quickly, what do you think your final score is? What's your score prediction going to be, Paulsable?
I think that TSN, they still have a very strong chance. Darken was, like Naori said, was known as a DPS player before he was off-tank. They looked a little sketch in the past couple weeks, but INTZ is a team that they should still roll over. I'm expecting this to be a 4-0, even if the maps are rather close individually. I think TSN will take this one.
What about you, Naori?
I feel like something that I need to mention is that INTZ has just recently got a coach. And for the first couple of weeks of South American Contenders, they were trying really hard not to. We noticed that. They tried so hard not to run it, and it was really weird. And I'm hoping that this new coach has a little bit more insight into the meta and has showed them the ways of the Goats. Hopefully now this is where they level up. This is where they show their strength. So I'm going to put it at a 3-2, but I still believe that TSN is going to take this.
All right, well, we will see if the game will go to distance as we start in Busan. Take it away, Labasco and Panda.
Thank you very much, Katrina. It is Labasco and Panda. We are so happy that you are here with us getting ready for game number 1 of the Suquinho Nation versus INTZ Esports. A lot on the line here, Panda, as we're going into Busan. We know that the way that it currently stands for the standings, INTZ is in that last playoff spot. A loss here could be potentially disastrous for them, and for INTZ, it could keep their playoff hopes alive.
And there's a lot of pressure to be withheld for TSN altogether. With that on the line, regardless, there are those big shoes being filled. You can see on your screen already as we load into the first stage of Busan. It's going to be the Mecha Center. Delavine is actually taking up the mantle of the Brigitte. No surprise there. Darken has a flex tank pass. It's going to be leading up on the Zarya. Going to be going toe-to-toe on this Zenyatta Goats composition with INTZ Esports. The high ground is the prime stake to take for both these teams.
We focus on Suquinho Nation here at the beginning. Jules, the one that we're on, gets stunned out, almost falling, but is able to be healed back up and stays alive in this fight. But Spenko will take advantage of that for INTZ Esports, and now they will start to push the issue onto the rest of the team in Suquinho Nation. They're able to get Dagos team's Mech as well, one of the new players on on this team. They're just going to decide to jump off the map here after stalling at least for a little bit, and we'll respawn and regroup. But INTZ Esports taking the start here at Mecha Base.
Regardless of the fact, it's still smart for the rest of the team, the TSN, to jump off the map, not give any more ult charge over to Yax, who is absolutely punishing Jules. Not finding anything with that opening Earth Shatter, but Yax about to have one, so they can hold the door. Drusker's about to have this Graviton Surge, too, underneath the armor of HM. INTZ are holding strong.
Use of that rally right away.
Oh,
and
nice.
Big Earth Shatter catches everybody. They're going to clean this fight up once again with that one ultimate and the rally.
Yeah, and that's just a clean fight right there. Big shield bash from HM. The coordination between HM and Yax today have been a lot better, and from the inception of this team coming into the season of Contenders Labasco, we've been waiting for this team to be awoken, whether that is because TSN are being off-putted by the ultimates or just because INTZ are just that on. Drusker, on the other hand, looking for that flank Graviton Surge, going to be outmaneuvered by the whole team of TSN.
INTZ in the driver's seat, 50% until they complete at least this first point, transing into this fight through the use of the Graviton Surge. Suquinho was able to get Negofu, so they're without the Lucio. Out comes the sound barrier now for Cosma, as this is going the way of INTZ Esports. They do use the Graviton Surge here. Darken starting to turn things around, it looks like. Oh, the self-destruct did just get Drusker too, so it looks like Suquinho Nation might be able to take this point.
Yeah, off of the self-destruct, Dagva's team fitting into this team wonderfully, still coming in clutch as we know him from his previous team. More importantly, with that sound barrier out of the way of Negofish, it really kind of left TSN at a deficit, a health deficit at that, because Casma used the sound barrier, and they had so much armor still left over from HM's past rally. INTZ are doing a good job of canceling all the ultimates they possibly can out of TSN, but TSN holding the point with this Earth Shatter. They can hold for just a moment while INTZ looking for their own Earth Shatter just to get back onto the point. It's good.
Oh, it's a massive one for Jules. He swings his hammer into a few players, and Kyoshi and Dago's team helping him finish off those eliminations as they keep control of this point. 77% though for INTZ. Now they do have a shatter that they could potentially use here in this next fight. Rally up for Delavigne.
This is very scary regardless. TSN are having an open season of gaining ultimate charge, so they're going to have this Transcendence ready. Actually beating Drusker might hold on to the Transcendence, maybe use aggressively so that they can really sustain the armor that Delavigne is about to put under TSM, but Yak's just holding tight, waiting for the proper shatter and sneak their way onto the point.
They were able to sneak on, but they didn't get on as quickly as they would have liked. They might have capped that if they got on a little earlier. The walls went up as they were backing up. Darken taking advantage of this too, is able to take XHM down and out of this fight. Falling as well is Hexton. They will just go off again for INTZ. It's going to be about even by the time these respawns come in for INTZ Esports.
My ultimate is almost ready.
As we are coming back here in just a second, almost with his ult is Darkin. Have the rally used at the start for INTZ. Drusker with his Graviton Surge going to be coming up here too. See who's grab will get more. Looking for both opportunities to get the grabs. Yax getting bubbled there by Drusker. Drusker able to get Jules down. Darkin falling as well. The grab not successful. Svenko will get a triple kill with his self-destruct.
Fantastic timing there at the end for INTZ Esports to retake the point off of a wonderful combo. They took care of Jules, so there was no shield to be bashed out of the way. HSM just being able to cleave with that flail into that Graviton Surge. INTZ Esports here at 95%. I'm gonna have to play upset one more time with this Yak Shatter.
No ultimates up for Suquinho Nation as well. Oh, that Shatter only able to get Delavigne. They are able to take him down right in the beginning of the fight. So Drusker doing that. He's building himself up to another all. Jules will be able to get his Earth Shatter in the middle of the fight, and it's turning the tide here for Suquinho Nation. Overtime meter is going, though they have to make sure they stay on. Clear these players off. They'll get the flip, 10% to go, but it might be enough time for somebody to get back, and those walls just keep coming in the way of Reinhardt's.
Yeah, Reinhardt not having an easy time. It's just when you think he'd be able to maneuver around big things just like his shield. Not this time around. INTZ Esports just barely getting to the point. Hex having to swap over to this Tracer just to do so.
That's okay, though. They have their opportunity here to try and turn this around. Drusker on the Wrecking Ball as well. As you were just saying, Panda, a big thing to pay attention here. Graviton Surge keeps most of the players off, and HM wasn't sure if he had to stay on the point. He could have gone into there with his trans, but instead he went away. That allowed for players to fall, so this is an advantage for Suquinho Nation. They're going to be able to turn this around. Last two players left alive in Drusker and the Lucio, who in Cosma, who's going to fall here in just a second. And now it's just Baby Diva, just these staggers coming forward. They're not going to be able to keep this point, though. It finally goes to Suquinho Nation, and they come from the behind to get up 1-0.
Clinical support play coming there at the end for TSN, especially for Rankyoshi using that Transcendence. When he did keep the armor alive underneath, and really push INTZ Esports back. Even when they held point with that Graviton Surge coming through, they were on stalled heroes at that point. Not being able to bust through all of that armor that Delvinia has continuously put underneath his team through the entire last stage has been a real standout so far, and a real answer to our questions on how they would end up faring now that Lubbock has departed from this team. And now with Delvinia taking on the Brigitte role, looks pretty comfortable. Most players, in particular in the Overwatch realm, are pretty comfortable with the hero altogether. But as we go to downtown, no swaps across the board. INTZ Esports, however, the way that they've been implementing, putting a lot of resources into Drusker when he is high charge, seems to be the biggest implement, because when Hex finds that big Discord orb onto the enemy Reinhardt of Jules, he just absolutely gets run over by the high energy of Drusker's charge.
We haven't seen too much Brig play, from them either. So Brigitte being worked in here. Also another thing to be noted as well. They've been using it more and more lately, and now we see them going to it here again with HM on that. Players getting pretty close for Suquinho Nation to falling. Rankyoshi, though, is able to find HM. So he's down early in the fight, and this should swing things in favor. And he finds himself another one with those destruction orbs. So the elimination's coming through for that Zenyatta, and he's close to a Transcendence.
Oh, one thing that's important to note, Darkin took a bit of a misstep there towards the end. Went down towards the end of that team fight. Is actually below the Graviton Surge charge against Drusker. When they both come back to this next team fight and try to get as much charge as possible, Drusker is actually going to have a Graviton Surge before Darkin, but because Rankyoshi did so much work and so much damage with his Orb of Destruction, he already has a Transcendence available. So does Negofish with that Sound Barrier.
And Yax is very far away from his Earth Shatter is another thing to point out. Dog's team starting off. HM falling at the beginning of this fight again. So the Brig gone, utility gone in the beginning, and Dago's team again onto Yax. So when one player starts to pop up, another one starts again for Suquinho Nation as they push them back into spawn as they're up to 35%.
And Delvinia goes down, but the work is already done from Delvinia's rally. Look at all the armor underneath the shielding and the HP in between Darkin and Rankyoshi. That absolutely makes them a raid boss stature, especially when they have all these ultimates. Darkin's about to have that Graviton Surge because Drusker found absolutely nothing with theirs. And Esports are at a real deficit. Kazuma needs to use the Sound Barrier aggressively if they want to push in, perhaps with a self-destruct even to make Jules turn around.
Oh, he's not even going to get a chance to do anything as Yax gets hit by that hammer and quickly falls in the fight. And Dago's team just cleaning up in that Graviton Surge. Somebody did end up in behind, but it doesn't really matter. They're so split and they're so being taken advantage of here. Suquinho Nation just controlling everything.
It's just the absolute power, right? TSN, they have two technical flex tanks that have been playing that role for quite some time. And in a meta where tanks are absolutely the strongest, it really comes out to just composed ultimate economy, and TSN, they have yet to feel any pressure whatsoever to use the self-destruct, whether as a remake or a combo, or both their support ultimates of the Sound Barrier and the Transcendence. Here comes the self-destruct from INTZ.
Will be able to find Negofish, so maybe some life here for INTZ.
Nice
but
shatter.
the self-destruct and the Earth Shatter out here will take Drusker down, so there's no chance here for INTZ. They're going to just try and stall out for as long as they can as that gets into overtime. But it's a losing battle for them, and winning map number 1 will be Suquinho Nation as soon as they can take care of Spanko.
Spanko showing us a beautiful figure 8 there on the point as the overtime is just slowly burning away. INTZ Esports not really taking any sort of stall heroes whatsoever, but they do have a couple support ultimates to keep this up in the fight. Transcendence being used, Sound Barrier being thrown out, Negofish died off early in the previous fight to come back through, but it's all hearsay. Darkin's gonna force INTZ Esports into an unwarranted group hug. And now Suquinho Nation find themselves 1-up in the series.
A very, very well-handled 1-0. It didn't start off that way, though, Panda. Map number 1, Mecha Base, looked really good at the beginning for INTZ. INTZ were in dominant control, and then things sort of just turned around. What was the change?
And something that I noticed altogether was both the teams, Suquinho Nation and INTZ Esports, they were really getting aggressive. One member in particular from each team, it wasn't really just one specific from either team in particular, started getting a little bit more aggressive towards the end of the team fight when they didn't necessarily need to, whether it was a Zarya pushing past when they didn't have the personal bubble, or a Brigitte pushing too far past without the Reinhardt, or again, that Zarya bubble. It's just very important when you are getting that aggressive. That one member ends up going down, and it really leaves the rest of the team at a deficit for a fight. and take a look at some of these replays, it was really a story of just which team could keep their Reinhardt up the most. And like I was saying towards the end of the last map, Labasco, it came down to the supports. More importantly, the supports for TSN, Rankyoshi and Negofish, they started playing more composed. You saw Negofish stop being more in the front line, really using the spacing of the aura that Lucio provides, keeping the speed boost around Jules and keeping the healing aura more than available, keeping Rankyoshi under pressure. It's the name of the game. The TSN really slowed down the pace, and INTZ Esports, they didn't really know what to do with that slow down 3-3 style that TSN wanted to play.
And you're going to see here where in some of these replays where Yax just gets bullied at the beginning of these fights and quickly taken down where he has just no chance. One of the things, too, I wanted to ask you about, Panda, is, D'Agostino being the new member of this team for Suquinho Nation, replacing the player who we had just talked about, you heard our desk talk about in Lubak. He's replacing him, but he's not replacing him. Darkin has sort of moved into the role that Lubak had. What do you think of what you've seen of him as far as his integration into Suquinho Nation?
I haven't really, if anything, TSN looked just as good. It's like I was saying at the end of the map, I'm more than at a praise for TSN with how well they're implementing D'Agostino with Darkin, taking over the Zarya mantle 100% of the time now for TSN. They look fantastic. Delavigne obviously has scrim time and practice on Brigitte. We know that multiple DPS players have that hero in their pockets, which is a support, by the way, keep in mind but it's still really important. You can tell the clinical play altogether for a Brigitte player to know when to peel and to know when to push. And because Delavigne has been working with Jules since the beginning of the season, Labasco, the shield bash with Shatter for self-destruct, he's looking fantastic. And moving over to Hollywood, there are a couple points, more importantly, point A and point 3 for this map, where Goats 3-3, more importantly, Brigitte triple support is super strong. The Suquinho Nation, they're going to continue to give it to Inter.
And this is a map, too, where we know Suquinho Nation is just a very strong 3-3 composition team. They like to play those GOAT-style compositions. And Hollywood's a place where they can definitely do that again. I don't think it would be a surprise if that's what we end up seeing. But for INTZ Esports, we know that they are one of the teams, especially them, that really will try different things out. Is this the potential that we could see from INTZ here?
They have been trying different things all throughout the season, Labasco. That's a good highlight. Svenko has been in today. Keep in mind, he was the Diva player. I don't believe he actually saw playtime last week. Don't completely quote me on that, but they have so many different members on their roster. We haven't seen Sculpt. HM has been their stand-up Brigitte player since the beginning of their Contenders run here. But this could be their opening, and possibly why they chose that map, because they see the opening that TSN have. We haven't seen much DPS play coming out from Darkin or from D'Agostino, depending on which route they go, or if they just continue to play iterations of 3-3, throwing Jules over to the Winston or the Reinhardt when need be. INTZ could have a real opening here. They could have possibly found themselves a map score victory just on paper, because they have listed a multitude of DPS players they could flex in and out.
And another thing to think about here for this as well, Panda, is for Suquinho Nation, this is actually their first map, their first game that they're going to play on Hollywood in this Contender season. So that, there's no history for them to go off of, and that could be maybe something that factored in for INTZ here as the doors have opened and they start to already come out. I guess they didn't want us to see comps until the very end, it seems like.
Yeah, and that's generally, you can see the play of this late in Contender season, trying to catch the other team off guard. Maybe they have been scrimming more on this one, just looking for more openings, trying out different strats. INTZ Esports, though, they're trying to go straight up the gut, though, going eye for eye. Yax versus Jules, the shield bash dance is upon us.
Well, right now you have that dance happening, and forcing back INTZ Esports is Suquinho Nation. So they're winning at least the ground battle, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the war of this battle is the only thing. D'Agostino very close to losing Mac and does. So that's an early advantage going over to INTZ. Now we'll see how they decide to push forward with that advantage. Drusker extremely hard charge and already close to getting himself a Graviton Surge. So that is a massive advantage that they have at the beginning of this fight. They're already on the point. Fire Strike will take out Jules. HM fell is the only thing, but it looks like it's not going to matter. Delavigne, even though he uses the shield bash, he's going to lose his life, and this will eventually go to INTZ.
Yeah, INTZ Esports did a fantastic job there. Finding the Mechadavix team early was a fantastic disadvantage to pounce upon for INTZ Esports. It's the defense matrix out of the way, less orbs of destruction that Hex was lobbing towards and past the limo. Found Rankyoshi, was huge. Could use that Transcendence to keep his team in it. Wanted to hold on to it, obviously. Regardless if the fight was lost and the payload becomes unlocked, going to have that Transcendence available for the Graviton Surge. NC Esports, they're not looking too weak here coming in. They're about to have a 6-pack full ultimates.
Yeah, oh, but the Shatter preemptively from Jules might turn it around. Oh, they lose 2 on either side, though, so Delavigne able to find HM. So this actually is turning around for Suquinho Nation. That really quick preemptive ult seems to be what they needed.
Yeah, Svenko found 2. I think it was a self-destruct for perhaps a remake even. Maybe they tried to do a throwaway combo there at the end. I'm not too sure, but regardless, did find 2. But the payload control is still going to be in the favor of INTZ, but it's really good regardless of TSN. Trying to use ultimates there at the end of it. We're trying to get as many out of INTZ. Good ult tracking from TSN to try to make it as economic as possible, but as the re-entry comes through, TSN still has a grab.
Still using their ultimates first, the Suquinho Nation in these fights as well. Sound barrier up to keep everyone alive for INTZ, so they're able to get through the self-destruct and the Graviton Surge, and then the massive Shatter in behind. But a good use of the ultimate of the sound barrier for Suquinho will keep Jules alive for the moment. Now he falls. Now they can start pressing. Oh, but Delavigne with the shield bash, throwing it back in their favor. XHM does fall here as well, so this is kind of just a brawl, just a brawl on the point as of right now for both these teams. Svenko able to get Dago's team with the help of Hex as we get to see Yax starting to come back into the fight, but the fight on the cart that's happening, Graviton Surge out, Transcendence forced, and INTZ is being forced back.
Yeah, it's attacker's advantage for the spawn room, but TSN, they had the better man there on the point because of the mirror matchup. Regardless, they've never really fully dealt with Rankyoshi coming back in there. Darkin even being able to hold on to the charge. And the speed boost here from Negafish, you can see as when you don't deal with the Lucio Foley, it is a lot of healing, especially in a capable Lucio player like Negafish, using that amp it out ability very effectively. It's 30% shy to his next sound barrier. Kazma is doing the same exact thing. It's really the enabler for both these compositions, just the speed boost for both the teams. You can see Darkin giving away his positioning. We'll have the Graviton Surge available, catches a few members out, but it really got eaten.
It definitely got eaten, and now the self-destruct from Svenko still coming out. They're not able to get taken advantage of. Jules's, it just stayed alive long enough, his shield. Doesn't matter, though. They forced into that team and are now starting to eliminate the players on Suquinho Nation to get that cart moving again with 2:30 left to go.
Yeah,
2:32.
And with the time slowly going down, it's about to be another bend. INTZ Esports, they still have a plethora amount of time, all things considering how long these fights last with the 3-3 on the board. TSN are about to have, or both teams, in fact, are about to have all 4 support ultimates. More importantly, Delavigne is about to be closer to this rally. Could be more importantly, we've seen Rankyoshi when he has that much armor after the Transcendence. His positioning for the Ords of Destruction that follow the Zoom Yada is fantastic.
Oh, nice shield bash, shatter combo, and it will get Darkin to eliminate. Oh, Darkin eliminating XHM out of it is the only thing. So now the self-destruct thrown onto the point, and Dago's team will find Yax and Drusker. So the tank's down, and that will cause INTZ to retreat and go away.
This is some of those combos that I'm talking about, that why Delavigne has been working on this Forgets a role, though he is a lot more suited to be on those bigger bursts and DPS roles such as the Zarya, the McCree, all the sorts. It's very nice to see the Forget the role still being used effectively for TSN. The shield bash, take away the shield, and a lot of the abilities for INTZ Esports. That way they can combine as much cooldowns into the big crowd controlling, damaging effects that TSN like to bring to the table. But INTZ Esports, as they're walking back in, the axe with the shatter could change the fight. But the Graviton Surge from Darkin is great.
Was making sure it wasn't going to get eaten that time. Yax getting forced away, but he still has an opportunity to use his shatter, and it's big, and it will help him eliminate 2 players down, and Darkin with another, or Drusker, sorry, eliminating Darkin is the other one, as they will start this card again with a minute left to go. Darkin and Drusker, too close, and they both have to do it tonight.
It's so close, eh? But what's even closer was that sound barrier coming out from Kazma just in time, keeping the entire team of INTZ Esports up and having the man advantage for that fight. They look to get a couple of staggers out here. Big charge coming through up out of nowhere. And there's just Reinhardt going for each other. The slot fest, the slobber knocker, even Dago's team with the cleanup. TSN, we're looking for another close hold here on point C.
Definitely want to get to those doors, not allow that car to get through it, and they forced everybody back into spawn. Good job, though, by INTZ Esports to regroup as quickly as they did, Panda.
Yeah, you don't want to give as much of a charge over to the 3-3 comp, but more importantly to their supports. Negafish is about to have that sound barrier available, beating Kazma to that next sound barrier on this map. Both Transcendences are available for both these teams. More importantly, the Graviton Search for Drusker can come out, but the shatter again from Jules, he has consistently been on point.
Shield Bash Shatter combo is so dangerous. You see it again here from Suquinho Nation. They force everybody back into spawn who was alive, and they'll just sit on this cart and wait.
Yeah, and winning the fight with just a Shield Bash and a Shatter is where you want to be in an aggressive hold on Point C Hollywood. TSN can play as proactively as they want, so that way they can hold their ultimates. More importantly, Darkin was able to get the Graviton Surge in that last squabble. Now they can meet eye to eye. Yax again, stepping over bounds.
Didn't have enough support to keep him alive, but the self-destruct finds 3. Doesn't even matter. They will get this cart going once again. Dago's team on the point, just stalling for as long as possible. Under a minute left for INTZ to get this to the end.
We'll give it to you, INTZ. Something that has been consistent all season long. HM and Yax Shield Bash combos take away the shield of the enemy. Reinhardt with any self-destruct have been looking great. The placement from Svenko's self-destructs today are fantastic. Probably why they brought him in now as a Diva specialist, perhaps. And with that rally coming out from HM, it's a lot more armor underneath all that charge for Drusko. Could charge another Graviton Surge. Darkin has one of his own.
Self-destruct thrown in, won't find anything. Transcendence used for INTZ. Jules was able to take Yax out is the only problem. So you're down your main tank and you're seeing them back off because of it. They know there's not a lot of time left. 18 seconds left to try and get back onto their cart. Have to wait for their main tank. Only problem is everybody's starting to fall. Yax was back, but 2 players down. The stagger is huge. 10 seconds left. Somebody has to go to the cart.
Nobody's going to be able to. Lobosco, a big speed boost amp coming out from Nagofish. Both Sound Barriers coming out from Nagofish. Transcendence from Rinkyoshi. A whole bunch of body in front of the spawn room doors at INTZ Sports. More importantly, Cosmo went down. It's probably the only one of INTZ Sports that could have hopefully stayed behind and sped boost back onto the plant. Was unavailable to do so. And now TSN, you can see the golden checkbox victory in sights. Just got to ride a limousine all the way to half point C capture. And they'll be able to go into the half with their heads held high.
To think that they can't do it would be something that's possible, of course, but the way that they've looked here, the way they use their alts, I think, is so good, Panda. Their timing has been great, and when you're getting Dago's team implemented into this group with them, it almost feels like he's been a part of this team more than just a week.
I feel like the best part of that highlight was when Point C got unlocked for NC Sports, and NC Sports went to go punish the forward spawns of TSN, but they didn't fully count all the way. The entire roster was there, and Jules took a counter charge and really took Yax out of the fight. And at that point, it was just really core GOATs playthrough, and that's where Dago's team feels most comfortable. We've seen Diva players across the regions of Contenders be more comfortable on that Diva role versus Zarya, but Darkin coming through in this region as a Zarya specialist has been fantastic regardless. It really doesn't seem like they have single-handed miss any sort of steps, like you said, Lobosco. It's very impressive, and they're really filling out these roles wonderfully because Yax and HM are still a very good duo as far as Reinhardt and Brigitte are concerned. Just TSN altogether are really flexing strong, and they're still being able to come above it all, and they don't really seem to be... I mean, I'm sure they're missing Lobok to some degree. They're not really playing these flashy DPS compositions anymore, but their 3-3 still looks very strong.
And 3-3 is such a strong combination that maybe getting stronger on the 3-3 might be something that helps them get into playoffs. Of course, they have to get a win here and give themselves a good chance to make sure that they stay in that playoff spot. Yax was able to fire strike Delavinier, but Jules was able to get HM with the hammer. So pretty even here. Oh, but Jules falling to the fire strike of Yax will throw things back in favor of INTZ. So the pendulum swinging back for INTZ at the start of this fight.
You can see the charge on your screen for INTZ Zarya Drusker. It's still around 60%, but that's just the difference. Regardless, Darkin walked in there with aggressive bubbles under Jules, and you almost want to save it for the cleansing bubble. All HM had to do was just shield bash the Reinhardt, and he got absolutely obliterated from the Discord orb. Rinkyoshi, however, still finding a lot of damage. Not enough as much as Hex, however, already has a Transcendence available.
Not afraid to go back in, though, is this team in Suquinho Nation. There comes the bash, still alive for the moment was Jules, but now he gets felled by Drusker. So this back into the favor of INTZ Esports. And now, with no shields, no worries about that Earth Shatter, and they have to go back to spawn.
A simple speed boost, a simple press of the Q, and a simple shattered Earth, says Yax. Drusker, forward positioning, gonna look for this flank grab. More importantly, TSN, Rinkyoshi Transcendence was just a hesitation. Moments too late. Could have kept Jules alive. Jules needs to be careful, not going for these crazy cleaves and flame strikes. He's being eaten with the Discord orb. And then, the big Graviton Surge off the flank. They have nothing for this.
absolutely nothing, and they're all going to fall again. Nobody checked that spot to the right, and Drusker took advantage.
You'd almost think that after so much Sombra play in the previous meta, that D.Va players would be more than used to checking their corners for such silliness. Not this time, not with the flanking Zarya. Drusker will still be able to hold a lot of charge, 30% to his next Graviton Surge. More importantly, they're pushing TSN back, punishing for using that Transcendence in the previous fight.
Only a minute 56 left for Suquinho Nation to try and open this.
No, not again.
The grab got eaten again. What a great eat coming out from Svenko. He has been on fire on this D.Va, eating Graviton Surges from Darkin. Still in this fight, though, is the side of Suquinho Nation. Jules with that hammer cleaves HM, able to get the D.Va down. Might be able to get them out of mech as well. Has to be careful not to lose his own life. And the Transcendence will allow them to push right into Jules because of his aggressive nature. And now they will have to go back into spawn and regroup again for Suquinho Nation. We're almost under a minute.
Yeah, Jules is putting on his best Reinhardt impersonation, more or less in his personality. He's getting absolutely aggressive. A very angry big German man here on the front line of TSN. Could have been there to combine the Shield Bash with Delavine, just a minor miss time, whether that was the cooldown or a miscommunication in TSN. Visibly on the screen, it just wasn't there. That shatter could have been a lot better on TSN. Find themselves at a deficit again. Drusker with this Graviton Surge is going to change this fight. Rank Yoshi does have the Transcendence available. It comes out of Dash. She needs to eat this Graviton Surge. She needs to stay in mech. Oh, man.
Didn't eat it. Self-destruct can still be blocked. Oh, but it doesn't block it for everybody. And Darkin was the player you couldn't lose because he was about to get grabbed. They're still forcing on to point, though. They still have been able to find a few picks. It might not matter is the only thing, and it looks like it won't as they have pushed back these supports. There still may be a chance, though, to recontest for INTZ.
The Shield Bash came through from HM, and it didn't find Jules. It actually found Dagasim in the middle of that. And the minor Shield Bash, mistake, only found Darkin in that Big Bang combo. INTZ Esports now find themselves comfortable to take a forward fight here. They got all the forward spawns, and Yax does have a Shatter available. Both defensive support ultimates available for INTZ, so they can hold very close here on these boxes. TSN had to use almost everything in that last team fight, though Darkin does have a Graviton Surge. It's if they have the damage available. Nice Shatter!
Another incredible shatter comes out from Jules. Darkin quickly using that gun to get HM down in this fight as well as they will get this cart moving. Oh, Hex, though, was able to get Delavine a nice grab into the corner. This time, definitely not getting eaten. Had to be careful not to let Dago's team fall. Jules wasn't able to swing into that, it looked like, as well. So they haven't been able to get as much out of these ults as they would have liked. They're still pushing forward, but now they have a self-destruct. They're all in the middle, and it will find two supports, and this is going to be a team fight win for INTZ, even though it didn't start out the way they would have liked.
It's a very close timing to that sound barrier that you can actually counter to a self-destruct, but the rest of the damage was all there into the Graviton Surge from Drusker. The cleave from Yax was just too much. You can tell he's about to have another Earth Shatter available, so will Jules. Suquinho Nation, however, with Delavine's rally is really the only thing that they can really use to impact the next match. If Delavine misses the Shield Bash onto the enemy Reinhardt and Jules can't find a big Shatter again, this payload is going to be hard to find progress through the streets of Hollywood.
Jules has been finding some great shatters, though, and he finds another one. Hex was ready for it, though, instantly pushes that Transcendence button. Jules did charge HM, though. Doesn't matter about the healing, and he charges into one for Yax to try and even this up. INTZ is not down and out in this fight. A minute 14 left, two for Suquinho Nation to try and get there. The double kill comes out from Dago's team to throw this back into the favor of Suquinho Nation.
Yeah, Dago's team can definitely pop a pound it over to Delavine. Good shield bash over to Yax, so that way the shield was out of the way. For that double kill was probably on a remake, if not was properly placed. And now TSN with the spawn room advantage gonna be able to get progress onto point B. Hoping to see point C. Darkin was able to build close enough to a Graviton Surge in the middle of this team fight. Is going to need it because with the Brigitte being played in the 3-3 composition, the team fights last so long. This is last team fight scenario. TSN, they need to be careful. They can't overstep here. They need to combine their ultimates properly so that way they can see point C. But take a look at INTZ on a group flank. Drusker has a Graviton Surge about to brief him out on the front side.
Oh, it got in though. Great job by Dago's team, but he got moved into the self-destruct. Svenko gets two. Sound barrier to ensure that they keep everybody else alive. They can push into Jules and take him down. No tank to try and keep themselves alive in front of. Have to use the sound barrier in desperation. Ran Kiyoshi and Nagelfist, the only ones left on. Dago's team and out of mech on the cart as well, but they will be taken down. Overtime just going to start here. Darkin, though, will be pushed away. Just gets on for a second, but that looks like it'll do it here as that overtime meter's so close to going, and it will be a 1-1 game. INTZ will win this map here of Hollywood for this tie it up as we're getting ready to go into the first half.
I'm just as speechless as you, Labat. I mean, like a 1-1 series against TSN, you're starting to show the openings of missing Lubbock here. By the confident play coming out from their new Brigitte player in Delvigne, they're missing out on a lot of damage from that Zarya play that they have known and love. There seem to be misstepping on where they could find all the rest of that damage. And INTZ Esports, with the re-entry of Svenko on that Diva, has been fantastic. A standout play combining with HM's Shield Bash onto the Reinhardt is catching TSN out more often than not.
Of course, Svenko being incredible on that has been good, but of course we have ourselves an incredible desk with Naori and Plausible, and of course our gracious host and Katrina. So guys, go ahead, break down what is the end of the first half, because now I can apparently talk. So go ahead, take it away.
Thank you so much, Labasco and Panda. And first of all, this is absolutely incredible. Not what we were expecting at all coming out of INTZ Esports. But Naori, can you please explain to me what is making INTZ be so dominant, especially on that last map of Hollywood? This is a completely different team.
I'm going to start with not what we expected, what I expected. I am so surprised. I mean, even though I made that prediction, I have been so impressed with the team that INTZ has become in the space of a week. Now, we can talk a lot about the fact that it's quite clear that they aren't as polished on GOATs. They're making a few micro mistakes. We can talk about the fact that Suquinho have just lost one of their star players. And, you know, they're going through a few growing pains, swapping people onto different roles and whatnot. But I got to hand it to INTZ. Regardless of all of these other things that are going on, this is a different team. They are playing in a way that we haven't seen them play before. They are looking stronger. They're looking cleaner. Yes, they are making mistakes, but they're still fairly new to this GOATS composition. And despite that, they are performing phenomenally. Their team play has been so good. Kazma's beats coming in at just the right time to save his team. Even Hex's Transcendences, which really kept them alive on Hollywood, just after Suquinho capped first point and they started pushing in, and a huge Earth Shadow would come in, and Hex time and time again had that Transcendence. And don't even get me started on Darken's Gravs that were just getting eaten by Svenko. I cannot quantify how impressed I am with this team. Yes, they have made mistakes, and we will likely get into that a bit later on, but huge props to this team. It is 1-1, and my prediction is looking stronger and stronger.
You know, I'd actually like to get into those mistakes now if you'll let me, because I'm gonna play the role of a cynic. I'm actually not. Don't get me wrong, INTZ look infinitely better than they have in the past weeks, but I'm actually not too impressed by the play that either of these teams is bringing out right now. We talk about a lot when it comes to the semi-pro level about the nuances of GOATs, and there's a lot of them, right? I'm going to start with Zarya bubbles, because I do not feel like Drusker is utilizing them correctly, and that's where we're seeing a lot of these Bash Shatter combos come in that better teams are not going to allow to happen. We have it's a new player on that Zarya for Suquinho, right? Is Darkin versus who is it for? It's Drusker, right? For INTZ. Yeah. Neither of them are playing horribly optimally when it comes to managing those bubbles, right? We'll see them largely use them for charge rather than denying the enemy team's value. And speaking of denying value, I'm going to move on to my second point of nuance that I think these teams could both clean up a little bit, right? It's going to come down to the corner play. When you have the Reinhardt and the Zenyatta in the GOATS composition, you have to be playing the corners and trying to force the enemy team to overextend into you, right? Because if your Reinhardt goes around that corner, the enemy team's Zen has line of sight and yours does not. That is a lot of damage. That is a Discord orb, and that is just death it's a death sentence for your Reinhardt, right? And almost anytime these teams win a fight, when it's vanilla, when it's sort of the neutral fight where neither of them have ultimates, it comes down to whose Reinhardt was out in the open for longer, right? We saw that on Busan. When on the first fight, when it was Jules backing off that corner very well, Yax got baited out and decimated, right? We saw it on Hollywood. On Hollywood first, rather. Both Reinhardts playing in that open area. Whoever got around the corner first got deleted and just murdered, right? So they need to still clean it up. And it really comes down to those nuanced plays where either of these teams can still win or lose in this series.
And we did see, just as you were saying, those corners being exploited, especially onto Hollywood. But we have compared both of the Zaryas. Let's take a look at both of the Reinhardts in this matchup. Now, Jules has been the first to fall in many fights, but he's also had some absolutely incredible Earth Shatters, very aggressive gameplay. Nairi, why is this an important factor of TSN? Why is this something that INTZ needs to factor in when they're scouting them?
Right. So what I've spoken about a lot on previous desks has been the two types of goats when it comes to damage. You can either put all of your resources into Reinhardt and he becomes a massive battering ram, or you put all of your resources into your Zarya and she just melts everything. And what we've been seeing from a lot of teams is a preference for that Rein battering ham, and it is exactly what has been done with Jules. They put all of their resources into him and it allows him to be aggressive. The problem with that is, if you know that's coming, it's quite easy to single him out and get him down. And once he's down, the entire composition falls apart. So that's really something that they need to be looking out for. Make sure, if the Reinhardt is still alive, it's going to be incredibly tough for you to take a point. But we saw it on both sides. The moment the Reinhardt went down, the fight was more or less won for the enemy team, for the opposition, for whoever it was that managed to kill the Reinhardt. Even when Brigitte went down first, even when Zarya went down first, the major linchpin in this game and the last game have been the Reinhardt. You need to be watching out for him.
Not only have the Reinhardts had so much of an impact, also the Divas and Suquinho and Dagostim have been so instrumental, not only with eating Graviton surges, but in their aggression as well. Dagostim is relatively new to TSN. And Paul, how has his impact, has it positively impacted TSN in a good way or in a bad way?
You know, I like to think it's a good way based on what we saw in Busan. He was doing a much better job of controlling space and really harassing INTZ than Suquinho was. But then Suquinho really brought his level of play up to match Dagostim on Hollywood, right? I wasn't really seeing that level of high ground control, the flanking potential from a diva, right? When you're a diva, you in the GOAT's composition, you have the ability to escape. You can get around onto those weird angles and force resources to be dedicated to you just to back away really well. And Suquinho was doing a much better job than that on Hollywood than Dagostim was. Dagostim kind of more of a passive diva. We saw that on Fury when he was on the team over in Group B, right? So it was working very well on Busan because his defensive playstyle was shutting down a lot of ultimate potential from the other team. Didn't work so well on Hollywood. I would like to see him get a little bit more aggressive, sort of contest those high ground areas when we go to our next map, because let's all be honest, it's probably going to be Hanamura.
Well, we will have an opportunity to see if Hanamura is still South American Contenders' favorite control map after this quick break.
Welcome back here on Broadcast.gg. It's Labasco and Panda getting ready for the second half here. The first half has ended. We're going to Hanamura as our next map, Panda. We heard there, talked about from our awesome desk, Plausible pointing out about Zarya bubbles. Well, we know since we're going to Hanamura, we're going to see more of them. So let's expand on that a little bit more. Who was using their bubbles actually the best between the two Zaryas that we've seen so far? Because obviously it's the way that they've been utilizing those has been a little bit pretty much the same for both of them, it seems like.
There's two different play styles for Zarya at hand here. You got the more aggressive play, and then you got the play for the cleanse, right? And it's more or less like there's one way that you need to play it in the 3-3 concept, and Drusker is really nailing that to the board. Using his bubbles for the cleanse against Yax, even though Yax falls, Drusker is still gaining charge regardless, but keeping his Reinhardt alive, negating the shield bash coming out from Delavigne altogether. I think that Darkin is more used to playing the aggressive style. More importantly, he was playing the Zarya or the Diva role previously. Might still be used to playing that aggressive Zarya playstyle that off tanks are normally falling into, though we know that he is falling into a more DPS playstyle. Could be trying to buffer out for the lack of damage that needs to come through on the 3v3 or 3-3 concept, especially with Jules being heavily suppressed by the entire team of INTZ. TSN altogether, they were doing pretty well at the beginning on the control map, Busan. They just seem to be misfiring slightly on Hollywood.
One thing that I noticed too, especially on when you talk about map number 2, as far as the Zarya alts went, the Graviton Surges, there were so many that got eaten on Hollywood, especially that were eaten by on the side for, well, INTZ was the one eating them.
Yeah, Svenko was eating a lot of Graviton
Svenko.
Surges. Yeah, and I think that's just more, again, coming down to the comfort play between the two Zaryas. More importantly, Drusker on that Zarya role comparatively to Darkin from TSN. Darkin has been throwing Graviton Surges into the group where it was a very light side that we got to see for Drusker's Zarya perspective when he threw out a Graviton Surge. He's always flicking to the ground, always looking at his feet. Where you can see Darkin using Azaria's pass tactic of throwing it onto corners, throwing it onto walls, etc. That as we load into Hanamura here, not only are the arcade machines being busted, but what I'm truly wondering about here is which team is going to force the Super McCree comp for point B after we're done with the Goats fiasco on point A. Or if we're seeing any Doomfist or Sombra for point B defense. It's always an option.
Well, you can have options too as a broadcaster. If you join us at Broadcast.gg, we help you grow and make it where you become the broadcaster you should be. We're constantly creating opportunities for exposure and practice just like this one and collaborating on resources to push esports forward. So if you love esports, want to join us, there's a link to the Discord down below. Be sure to get in on that. Ran Kiyoshi charging up those 5 shots. Doesn't find anybody, but that's okay. His team is still advancing forward for the side of Suquinho Nation, and swinging in to HM is Jules to give the early advantage. Suquinho Nation not looking too happy about that loss here, quickly forcing and posing their will onto this team in INTZ.
You can see just the power once he loses forgets it. It's just pretty much everybody else after there. It's a lot of healing up and out of the way. Just take a look at speed boost coming out from Negofish. TSN just absolutely bulldozing over INTZ Esports. Yax got pushed out by something. I'm not too sure what it was. Could have been a boot from Dagger's team. He did lose his mech after all, so could have been him just overstepping slightly. But they found the shield bash onto HM of all, and that's more impactful coming over to point B, Labasco, because the snowball opportunity for TSN is huge. Dagger's team has the mech back. More importantly, Delavigne, take a look at his ult charge compared to his other half of HM, is nearly double, if not actually. Oh, it actually is. I can't do math. Numbers are hard.
The one good thing, though, Panda, Darkin was able to get a lot of charge for that Graviton Surge. So even right now with Drusker now starting to pass him, is the higher charge of the two Zaryas as of the moment. Yak swinging in, though, wants to try and turn this around, but Delavigne, HM down early in the fight again. Graviton Surge thrown in here in desperation, but the Transcendence will keep everybody alive, and they will get control of this point. Just have to make sure nobody dies to self-destruct. They keep everyone alive, and now it's just get Cosma and get Darkin to maybe look for a good opportunity for his grab as they just try to get these last few. And there he goes, using the grab, quickly throwing the fire strike in, and they keep this point in their favor. They could have a time in the 5-minute mark after they can force out these last few players. They're going to use their sound barrier to make sure that they keep everybody up. Ran Kiyoshi and Delavigne combining for those next two, and the good use of the body block will get them a really, really big time bank.
Yeah, holding on to the Earth Shatter and the Self-Destruct for the next round, too. Smart move by TSN. No, I'm just kidding. But one thing that I'm actually slightly upset about is that we'll never get to see the snow version of Hanamura for a true Japanese snowball like we just got from TSN. 6 minutes and 7 seconds on the board. And that's insane. That is very, very insane. They didn't stop. Once the spawn doors opened, they bulldoze all the way through. Since that first shield bash onto HM, and then the bulldoze over to Yak's point B, they were just very composed all throughout it, utilizing their ultimates when need be. Jules was holding onto that Earth Shatter for the final tick. And Darkin, more importantly, didn't really seem that he was the one that was at a deficit for ult charge comparatively to Drusker. And Esports never fully regrouped, never fully took advantage of the spawner's advantage. More importantly, that they all spawned together, so they could have taken off the high ground and they could have taken that fight more adequately. But instead, they all got pushed. One got stunned out and booped aside. Fantastic and clinical play coming out from TSN.
HM was the first person to fall in both the winning fight for point A and for point B2 for INTZ Sports. I mean, you talked earlier about how important the brig is, but when you're not only losing once, but twice, the ultimate economy difference between those heroes is massive.
More importantly, the health economy is at a deficit more. The armor that goes in between the shields, I can sound like a broken record like this at the end of the series, but the armor that goes in between the shielding of the Zenyatta and the Zarya is the most important, especially when your Zarya has so much health charge. What's even more interesting of the very different composition that we see here on Hanamura Point B, TSN taking a different taste of their cocktail here today. It's actually coming out with a Mercy Zenyatta defense for their supports. Delvine on the Junkrat. Darkin gonna take a swap to a DPS this time with Jules on the Orisa. It's a very interesting composition, can work out very well. INTZ Esports looking to take that flexibility to the next level. HM dropping the Brigitte, gonna come over with the Mei. They're gonna wall off here, try to take the high ground, just speed boost onto the point, and pick a fight when they want.
They at least are through that choke, but now they're into that high ground area, still moving their way around, use the wall again as it's back up. Now they are so close to being able to push right onto that point. So this fight on the point is going to determine how this will end up going. Might see them use the wall again here to block off those players once they step on. And it looks like that's what they do. Oh, HM almost had it turned the wrong way, so had to go into the ice block. That's a little bit something going wrong, but it might not make a difference. Although Darkin with that early pick could be enough to get this point back for Suquinho Nation. Walls keeping them out again. Only problem is here comes the tire to get 3.
And blowing all the shrapnel into the hopes of getting that second tick. They did have to give off the first tick just because of the wall, but it's very unfortunate. TSN with very smart positioning out from Darkin altogether. You can wall off that choke as much as you want, HM, but you can still thread the needle with the sniper shot and the Widow's Kiss still being very effective against 200 HP heroes. Darkin found the Lucio, so no speed available to try to 80 strafe away from being headshot once more. Darkin doing fantastic work, keeping everybody clumped up, so Delvine just had to slow roll in with his rip tire, found 3. That was a fantastic play from TSN.
Well, they've decided to just push onto the point this time, and it doesn't work again. The pipe bomb's fine. Hexed and Xed going down, and Delvine throwing out that mine to find another, so they're still in control for Suquinho Nation. Cosma on this point, just stalling out for as long as possible. He gets he goes flying in the air, excuse me. And then the quick res by Ran Kiyoshi to get their main tank and Jules in. And oh, that was the Blizzard coming out. The Blizzard's gone from HM.
Yeah, Transcendence came out preemptively from Nicofish. Probably thought that the animation was going to come through altogether for the Blizzard. HM's going to go swap over to the Brigitte. They're going to go over for a full 3-3. The original goats, GT goats, if you will. Hex took a while for this coalescence to come through. Just really shows you how much work Dagger's team's been doing with that defense matrix to eat as many of the orbs as possible. Darkin, that did fall in that last fight, coming back onto the hamster. But more importantly, a different rollout came out at the beginning of that fight. Delvine consistently 3 with the Riptire.
Halt and tire combo. I haven't seen that happen too many times, but when you do get to see it, you can see why it can work so well. And oh, the massive stagger coming through here for Svenko.
Yeah, it's just Svenko popping off the Pilot Diva passive. For those of you that don't know, the passive of the Pilot Diva is actually you get staggered for all of eternity. CSN playing very clinical, and it's very hard at the end of the day. They're playing this 3-3 composition with the Moira goats, but with the Moira orbs being eaten, they can't fully pressure past the bunker of Jules. He has yet to feel any pressure. He's going to have the supercharger going in and over top of the Valkyrie. We're in last team fight scenario, Lobosco. And Delvine, he's going to get another Riptire. He's been doing so much tactical aero to die. Finds another trap, and it's HM.
HM wasn't close to the ult, though. the one that you have to look at is what can Drusker do with the grab, have down the supercharger in this fight. Delvini gets Cosma. Oh, the Earth Shatter, nothing there for Yax. 30 seconds left, and players are falling left and right. Drusker just trying to keep himself up. He used his grab. I think it got eaten because I don't think I ever saw it come out.
It did, in fact, get eaten. Dago's team, like I was highlighting earlier, he has been on point with this defense matrix. More importantly, it's just setting up the rest of his team because the entire team of INTZ Esports are throwing the resource somewhere, but it's just going into the ether of the defense matrix. And you can see the spots for INTZ Esports coming through. Svenko onto the Tracer, HM on to the Sombra, triple DPS, Yax on to the Winston just to get to the point as quick as possible.
Nagelfist starts it off with Drusker falling, though, is the only problem. HM on this point at the very least has to avoid the self-destruct. Almost got halted into it, not quite able to get him. Use of the recall there to stay alive for Svenko, who's now on this Tracer. They have to worry about the mines is the only thing because Darkin has thrown them all over. So have the one part of it, and now you're just being bullied into a corner where you can just quickly take them down and throw those pipe bombs in from Delavine back into the fight, but it's not going to matter for Drusker. The overtime meter after HM falls will go away, and going up 2-1 is Suquinho Nation.
That was very nice to see coming out from TSN. A nice flexibility composition altogether. We got to see Delavine onto a DPS, Darkin coming on, highlighting key headshots, threading the needle onto point A with those headshots, finding key picks like the enemy Lucio. More importantly, I gotta highlight, it was Nagofish on the Zenyatta for the Mercy composition, the point B defense there with Rank Yoshi, the one that we normally thought was the Zenyatta, and the Ana player handing over the Omnic healer himself to his co-support, and did a lot of work there at the end, finding a lot of good Discord orbs, finding a lot of good volleys. His positioning was not really taken from him, and he wasn't really pressured just because the entire team of Ints, they were too busy even trying to get to the point. More importantly, just trying to shield off all the damage that was coming from the bunker. Jules and Delavine did a fantastic job of just cutting down all of the space that INTZ Esports were just trying to take.
And the one ultimate that you would think that maybe could help, because if when you're playing that bunker comp, you're also close together, is the Blizzard. Well, they didn't get the Blizzard until it was too late anyway. So they never even had a chance to even use it and use what could have potentially broken it up. So they were just, they kind of handcuffed themselves from the beginning, choosing that comp, didn't they?
Yeah, I would definitely sing praise to a very throwback composition. I think it was C9 that did it years ago at this point. You just wall off all the different choke points. You see it on, we used to see it on Hollywood, and it was originally made famous on Hanamura point A. You just wall off all the different line of sights that the enemy can take at you. The wall there, when they finally got to the point where we just misspaced ever so slightly, and like I was saying, you could still snipe through those windows. I think that it was just a lot of time that was wasted, because at the end of the day, HM still came back on the Brigitte to no avail. And getting trapped, getting obliterated. Junkrat is a fantastic hero to obliterate armor and to take away the shield of Brigitte altogether. That I think by the time that you're just using all of that time to get to the point for that one tick, it really wasn't even worth it, because the ult economy at that point for TSN was just so stacked.
It really was. And I mean, they had the rib tires came so fast from Delavine. I think you have to give Delavine a lot of credit in that respects, though, too, to be able to build them that fast, to find the spaces to get those pipe bombs in, because there is still plenty of shielding that you have to try and get through as we start to look at some of the replays here, looking at that point B take that came through for Suquinho Nation, which was, I mean, just the attack here. I mean, almost forget to mention it because it was so fast.
Yeah, the Japanese snowball, it got pushed all the way to point B so quickly. 6 minutes and 7 seconds, keep in mind you, for their time bank. And one thing to highlight, more importantly, there in that highlight, was just how effective Jules was at cutting off all the different areas with the shield, really showing us how that shield was made for this map, more or less. Here you can see on the defense for TSN trying to utilize the wall, but again, the headshots just coming through timely. And they were just so pressured. They were all just sticking behind, trying to use their tanks to not get headshot. And that's when Delavine really took advantage. And you take a look at that. Even at a minute later, Delavine was already at another Riptire too. Just tactical error denial when you're just so tuned to where those grenades can be placed and where they bounce around is where a Junkrat can be very menacing for an attacking team to come through on Hanamura. Another 3K again.
That halts.
It's absolutely insane. They've been playing fantastic. It have been my standout players. Jules and Delavine have been combining every single hero cooldown that they have been playing since the beginning of the series.
It's one of those things where, like, you see there's a really good foundation here for the side of Suquinho Nation, and I think one thing to point out about both these teams too, Panda, is the age. There are a lot of extremely young players on this team. Darkin is only 17. Dago's team is 19. And then on the other side for INTZ, HM is 17. Trusker is 24. Cosma is 19. There's just lots of really just many players that are under 20 years old. So there's a lot of room to grow, I think, is the thing to point out for both teams.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's more important to stand out for INTZ to do as well as they possibly can, regardless of their series score at the end of the season, that they still look as strong as possible. Hex has still been one of the more standouts in Yadas for me personally, but you want to continue to look good just in case you get picked up and caught up by a team that is in playoffs or contenders guaranteed for the opening 2019 season. As we roll over to Route 66, a even more flexible map. Not as flexible as Dorado, but you can still see a lot of fun play. We have yet to see any Doomfist come out for either of these teams. Still very much so interested to see if Delvine will flex to anything else besides the Shrapnel rat himself. So
we haven't seen McCree either, which is something we've seen Delvine play a lot of. So that's still not as much on Route 66, but it's still possibility that we could potentially see it.
But you would think that you would play more McCree on Route 66. I mean, like this is his home map. Yeah, right. It's his home advantage. Hey, him and Ash, but we can't have Ash play yet. But as we roll into Route 66, though, the more important thing to speculate on is who's going to defer to the Winston 3-3. Who is going to could see some hamster play coming out again. Darkin came back just as a stall hero, but really looked strong. He looked great. His positioning, his usage of the grapple hook ability to be in and out of a team fight whenever he needed to be was pretty nice altogether. But I think the biggest standout for me is just Delvine. I thought the TSN were probably going to go back to that Super McCree composition that we've highlighted for them to play on that map specifically. Like you had said, probably won't see it on Route 66, but Delvine didn't even play the hit scan. It was Darkin that came out on the Widowmaker and looked really good doing so. So I think...
And that was on defense.
Right, exactly. So I think...
Go ahead.
Well, I think altogether that when you look and try to speculate how Darkin is being implemented into this team as a whole, you don't really see TSN missing all too much. Sure, they lost a map to INTZ, but I think it's all hearsay just because that's synergistic more than anything. But Darkin has been looking fantastic so far on this roster. Daga's team.
Right. And I think the one thing I was just going to say there about Suquinho Nation, about Delvine was, he didn't have to play the McCree there because they snowballed it. So maybe we would have seen it if they'd lost that first fight on that second point. But that fight doesn't matter anymore because we're now into our fourth map. INTZ wants to tie this up and force up map number 5. It's something that they've been able to do a lot this season. See if they can do it here on Route 66. The doors have opened. The axe is on the cart and starts to move it. And we see here the defense has themselves a Tracer and a Sombra, Panda.
And they're probably going to regret it almost immediately. They can see the composition that INTZ are running on their attack, and they see HM on the Brigitte. So Darkin and Delvine, they have to be very careful with how they take this attack. It's actually a triple DPS, almost quad if you will, because Dagger's team is technically on a support, but Rank Yoshi on that Soldier 76 gets caught out early.
When you have a flail flying into your face, there's not a whole lot you can do. Yax and HM combining early on, and they're going to really easily win this first fight and keep that cart rolling.
All right, TSN. It was cheeky. It was really pretty. Now, what else we got? Delvine is going to flex over to the Doomfist. It's more important. Darkin's not nudging at all. It's coming back here on the Tracer. What's really hard to notice here is that when you're playing these dive-eccentric heroes, they still have to get through the Brigitte and all the armor and all the tankiness that is INTZ Esports. They don't really have much burst damage, which is why Delvine is swapped over to Doomfist.
Well, and Dago's team just gets caught out. Do get the sleep onto Yax, but the only problem was there was nobody around for Dago's team, and Nago Fist falls as well. So you're already down 2 important players in your composition. So just looking for stall tactics right now. It's Suquinho Nation. It's not going well.
Yeah, and they can't stop HM from just doing what you see on your screen here, just flail, whip-shotting everybody all to oblivion. And that's one of the more difficult things when you're playing so much DPS and you're lacking the one swap that you see now for Brankyoshi going over to the Zenyatta. You need that Discord Orb. That extra 35% damage that comes through on the Discord Orb. When you land it onto the Brigitte, that really shuts down the Inspire that is on this patch. Keep in mind, this is still 1.29. This is not the live patch. So Brigitte doesn't put off all that healing that she does currently in Overwatch. But TSN now with those swaps, they're staying on this Winston with Jules, but the Discord Orb from Brankyoshi properly placed, and it pushes the INTZ Esports back slightly.
Oh, you're still going to see a 3-3 comp from them and come out finally now, but they're going to keep Jules on this Winston. He did just pop his Primal Rage, pushing himself in, displacing heroes. Didn't quite get in there, though, to displace on that Earth Shatter, but not many players got caught in it. Dagostine won't lose his mech regardless because of it. Now can put that Tesla cannon onto Yax. They did lose Delavigne, though, too, so already behind in this fight. Drusker, very high charge, and has the grab that he can decide to use, but they're winning this fight. They're not going to need to. Having to regroup is Suquinho Nation.
This is the highest risk of the lowest reward that you could possibly ask for on payload maps, right? If you come out on a very DPS eccentric composition and look to catch the enemy team that's attacking off guard with it, and you land a whole bunch of early ult charge, then yeah, you're looking pretty good. But now TSN find themselves at an extreme deficit. With that Primal Rage being used, Jules now goes over to the Reinhardt. INTZ Esports have a plethora of ultimates to play around. Even also, all of that armor, Delavigne not going to have this rally until point C. TSN, they're trying to get this recontest underneath. Drusker already has the Graviton.
Out it comes as well, right as you say that. Self-destruct into it will go behind the pillar, but it doesn't matter. Drusker still was able to eliminate 2 with the grab, so they're still going to keep this cart moving on to this point. And I think that was a good thing that you pointed out, too, is that it doesn't give you a very high reward if you, or can be very risky, and here you see why. And this is a point where you can't really have these big of risks as you're Suquinho Nation.
Yeah, and point B was the more perfect time for those flexible compositions where Doomfist can come out to play, where a Widowmaker can come out to play, or something else to contest the high ground, because INTZ Esports don't really have anything outside of Svenko to get up on top of that saloon. But now we're on point C, Lobosco, and this is where 3-3 is at its strongest for Route 66. And the Shield Bash and Shatter to come through from HM and Yax momentarily. TSN, they need to be very careful. Their supports need to be very clinical with how they use their ultimates.
Well, they know they're going to have potentially an opportunity here. Able to stay alive through the Shatter for the moment. Oh, but here comes Ran Kyoshi. He's going to get pushed into the back with his trans. So luckily his trans wasn't up, so he stays alive through that. Self-destruct thrown in towards the grab was a little bit late, but they're starting to turn this around now. Now that they've gone back to this 3-3 comp, you start to see what they can really do.
Yeah, Ran Kyoshi just put it on his best. Like, come on, man. FaZe, like, as he's in Transcendence, doesn't even get the full pin off. He's just alive from releasing all the tranquility in the known universe. TSN finally with the nice hold from a really well-eaten pin from Ran Kyoshi. Yax overextending. More importantly here, you got to really tip your hat to INTZ Esports that they're doing a fantastic use of combining their tank ultimates all together until that very moment. Now TSN look for their open up chance to keep the ult economy in their favor. Earthshatter misses as Shield Bash wasn't there.
Throw in the Graviton Surge. Once you see that happens, is Drusker, and now you just have a main tank and a Nego Fist alive in the Lucio. And Nego Fist will fall, so now that'll start to advance once again, but they should be able to regroup here. They all died pretty much around the same time.
Whether Drusker means to do this or not, his Graviton Surge placements have been fantastic. Even if Ran Kyoshi had the Transcendence available, his line of sight would have been cut off, so he couldn't give the full benefits over to some key members of TSN. Riley's going to come out here, however, for Delavigne, so TSN's going to be able to get an aggressive hold, and they have the Graviton Surge if they want to use it.
The good thing, though, is they do have Transcendence to keep this aggression for INTZ. Oh, and block, though. They're looking for the bash. It never came through because HM was felled by the Fire Strike of Jules. So now Suquinho Nation swinging this back in their favor. It looked like INTZ had the ultimates to make that work.
And you almost have to wonder if this hold could have happened on point A if TSN came out on a mirror composition like they had probably assumed INTZ were going to come out on as well. Now INTZ find themselves at the other end of the table. It is quite literally flipped over on them. The ult economy is not looking too strong in their favor. Daka seems about to have that self-destruct, and Delavigne lands a good shield bash onto the enemy Reinhardt of Yax. It could find a couple members.
Well, they're going to throw the self-destruct in here. First, they back away, not wanting to get caught by that use of that bash. Dagostine was able to get Svenko at the very least. Ran Kyoshi with Yax falling, though, here, as this is looking bad for INTZ again.
Those are two big picks that you never want to see at the beginning of the fight, but it's more important to state that Ran Kyoshi, with his positioning, has always been utilizing the front line of Delavigne and Jules, as well as Darkin, for the entire team with TSN to set up Ran Kyoshi to find those orbs of destruction promptly. Very accurate he is with those as well. So TSN, again, not finding enough pressure from INTZ Esports' attack to use their support ultimates, and now they continue to build up this vault of ultimates and don't even have to use it quite yet either.
They're going to use Rally first into this fight. Out comes the Earth Shatter. Looks like it caught one. Jules fire striking Yax out of the fight and swinging their way forward. The counter rally coming there at the end, it looked like, from Delavigne as well. 60 seconds left here for INTZ Esports. They need to get this pushed all the way to the end. They'll still have, of course, the win condition, but you want to complete it if you can.
TSN have been able to hold the cart at 64.43 meters for about 2.5 minutes at this point, Labasco, and have looked fantastic in doing so. Quite literally taking their shoe and putting it on the other foot of INTZ Esports and the ult economy in the favor. Again, those two support ultimates, and Negofish and Rankiyoshi, have been online for quite some time.
Ooh.
Darkin, however, flank Graviton Surges. Both these Zarias have been doing this all series long. It's on the card. It finds 2.
They both use it. Both teams get players caught in. There wasn't the self-destructs really there to really do anything is the only problem. Svenko's didn't land in a great spot. Transcendence used here now as well. Sound Barrier coming out. Rankyoshi had used his trans already. Oh, Earth Shatters! Catch players on either side. Now the self-destruct from Dagostine will force players away is the only thing. Delavigne didn't manage to fall Lex, but players are starting to fall for Suquinho Nation. XHM and Drusker pushing their way forward, and now Darkin will fall as well. They might have a chance here to come back on. Overtime meter has started. Have to stay in the mech if you can. If you're the Diva, no, just going to fall onto the point and lose his life as Dagostine. They're going to have to use Rally and come back in here for Suquinho Nation. Jules pushing his way forward, causes those bubbles to come out early, and both these Zarias trying to get high charge. Nobody caught yet. Rankiyoshi, though, they push onto, and Yak's Fire strikes him down. Self-destruct in, not much to really handle this. Jules able to keep himself alive, swinging on that cart, try and get these respawns back in. Only problem is there's not enough that they can use, and the Rally will keep everybody alive, and it looks like this is going to get completed here after they get the Baby Diva gone and out, as they will get this cart those last few meters to finally take this for INTZ Esports.
INTZ Esports really picking up on the hesitation and decision-making of TSN, regardless of whichever it was. The Ana was a little bit late of a choice, a little bit of a last hurrah. That Biotic Grenade could have shut down a lot of the healing into the tanks that INTZ Esports had in their 3-3 composition, but it was a little late. You almost wish that you had seen Rankiyoshi take that Ana pick. We know him as a very good Ana player for this region. A little earlier on after that first Transcendence was used, or if he had just used it to win an aggressive team fight previously, maybe even holding on to that Transcendence too long to set himself up on a Nano Boost for the Ana and just save Negofist with that Sound Barrier for the Graviton Surge. But TSN found themselves a little bit manhandled there at the end. Fantastic play coming out from more importantly, fantastic play coming out from Svenko again. He's been stepping it up here on this the Diva role introduced into INTZ Esports this week. He has been on the roster, but now known as a Zarya specialist in the past or in this season so far, coming back on the Diva, it's been a standout for me. Self-destructs have been on point. More importantly, he has taken a lesson from Dagostine in a way of how to use Defense Matrix. He's eating a lot of damage that Negofish and Rankiyoshi are trying to throw past the shielding into the support line of INTZ. Yeah, he's been eating a lot of Graviton Surges from Darkin as well.
So you see the defensive setup here. They're going to go with the HM is going to go on to the May again, and it looks like they're going to go for that early hold spot that we've seen other teams use. You can call this a cheese comp, I guess, if you want. With the May, the Diva, the Zarya, the Reinhardt, and then you have Hexed on the Moira and Cosmo on the Lucio.
It is really cheeky. At the end, you can contest the payload slightly here on this May composition. A lot of healing can be bounced around inside that room from the Moira. Can't be eaten with the Defense Matrix if it is used more in the back part of the Mega Pack. TSN, you're going to have to see how adequate they are. They come out on a double main healer composition with the Sombra and the Pharah, and see how adequate they are about going to the other side of this elbowed room.
It seems like they were expecting it, and maybe that's why they picked the Pharah, because the Pharah can just shoot pot shots into there and deal a ton of damage and build up a barrage extremely fast, especially when that barrier goes down. And now you see Delavigne going to the other side, making sure that they don't come out. But now that allows them to push their way forward potentially. Oh, but there's an ice block into the way of HM, so they couldn't really go through. And now Delavigne, still from behind, is able to find Cosma. Delavigne already at 70%. Drusker coming out of there for a moment to try and just deal damage, but this is not going well. It's Esports caught in a really bad place in the barrage from close range. Delavigne doesn't even care about losing his life because the cart will start to roll.
It was just a matter of time, right, Labasco? That you could only hang out in that room for so long. You said it best. Having the Pharah just to keep as much spacing in between the May and the DPS seemed to be what's working best. They still have a few members. They're actually still holding off here momentarily. The May of HM not being fully dealt with. The Hex going to have a shatter. A lot of healing coming out from Hex. And very composed play with the Moira Orbs. playing around the defense matrix Daggish team. They found the mech of it too, so now TSN, they're going to have to recontest here as 6. And Esports, they had a moment's time to regroup as well.
They did have a moment to regroup. The only thing is you're still in that same sort of position, holding in this, and you don't quite have as good of an opportunity to hold. Yes, you still can, but now you have so far to go to try and reposition yourself is the only problem. And now you have the EMP into this room that you can now just have Delavigne free fire into. This is disastrous for INTZ Esports.
I like how they literally just looked at the payload and were like, no, guys, we have to go back to the room. It's the only safest spot around here. And look at all the damage Delavigne has been getting off. Not killing off. You know that it's an impressive barrage, regardless of being nano booster or not, because Farah said the entire voice line of Justice raining from above. Delavigne really enabling himself on the Farah. More importantly, Rankyoshi staying alive, flying around as Merce. He's going to have a Valkyrie for the next recontest. Hex, however, because the EMP came through from Darkin, still has the Coalescence. More importantly, you're not taking any swaps from INTZ Esports, and it's not as fancy. You can still get a cheeky hold here. You can see in the garage spot where INTZ is holding up. They like these small rooms. They're enjoying this May tactic, very much so.
I mean, you have places to do it, and it is taking time off the clock, but there's still just under 4 minutes left to go, so there's still a pretty good timing that's available, and you're still able to free fire in if you're Delavigne and Darkin finding players in the back, and now you lose the May. They do use some ultimates here in the self-destruct and the Graviton Surge, but Yax is only able to find Nagofist as he's still able to deal out plenty of damage.
So the wall needs to be placed off on a corner. You need a caddy corner the wall so we still have access to the Mega Pack, kind of like how the elbow, you need to force that with the wall. Missing it ever so slightly, just using the barrage. Get out of this garage, Delavigne says. And now with all the cleanup from Darkin, they're going to be able to do so. EMP, barrage, a very good combination to an immobile composition like the May Goats that INTZ have been playing. I'm going to see if they come out with any swaps. Not quite yet, because HM, lo and behold, will finally have that Blizzard. Sure, it's cute and it's cheeky. You might have wasted a decent amount of time. You're going to be able to come back to this point yet again, but to what point? You're going to have the self-destruct from Dagger's team. Jules with this Primal Rage going to be able to displace good concussive blast from Delavigne.
Well, they're going to try and go into Hank Hill's shop there where he sells his propane because they know that's another spot where they can hold. And they did get everybody except for Cosma in, and now they use the Blizzard here to try and take out anybody who comes in. So now they can hold here in this spot again. Ice block here to make sure that they keep it. They're putting everything on this comp that can just hold these places. They know they're going to end up losing fights, but they're just trying to kill off as much time as possible, Panda.
Room Raiders Overwatch Edition. Guest appearance, INTZ Esports, HSM on May. It's looking great. Just using all these small places to hold off. Delavigne, time and time again, he's always looking for this barrage, specifically onto HM with a May. Just really debunks the entire composition of INTZ Esports, but at the end of the day, they're still on core goats, so they're still able to control space and the payload at that for as long as they want. Delavigne has had enough of this this silly nonsense. It's gonna go over to the Doomfist. You know, if you just can't deal with your problems, you might as well just punch him.
And punch him in a small room is something that Doomfist excels at for sure. Panda, you're seeing Svanko go back into there for now, but maybe he saw that there's the Doomfist out. We'll see if they decide to change anything for INTZ. But I mean, this is working for the most part. They were able to win a fight that they probably shouldn't have because Delavigne got a little too close with this barrage. But now, of course, Doomfist, we know how powerful he can be in small little places. See if he gets his opportunity. Of course, he can also get trapped in there by the ice wall. See how HM decides to play this. So he's just going to block it off and say, you know what, you're not even getting in here. But now HM doing that, you know that the EMP can come in free, and then you can have your Doomfist punch into there. He doesn't find anybody on the initial opportunity, but it's okay. You know everybody's still stuck in this cart. And now they're able to come in. Oh, and Yax! He gets taken down before his ult can go off.
Yes, they're just hanging out in there. The EMP comes through, and you can tell the entire INTZ Esports, they're just like, okay, just wait for the EMP to go off, and they finally explode out of there using every single ultimate that they have in their bank almost. They're about to have a Blizzard here. The part is still contested. We're under 4 meters left to get point C. 45 seconds left. This is almost the last team fight scenario.
They're winning this fight, though, for the side of Suquinho Nation, at least for the moment. They have a couple players left alive in Jules, Nagofist, and Rankyoshi, who has to stay up on this Ana. Uses his ult onto his Winston. They want to win this here. They don't want to lose this one and have to regroup one last time, and they are finally going to do it, and they're going to have some ultimates to work with here as they go on to this final point.
And there you go, INTZ Esports. Finally, HM swapping over to the Brigettas, and now we have a true GT Goats composition. Wonder if Hex is going to go over to the Zenyatta now as well. Nope, staying on the Moira. So now here's the real question: is if you're still finding really good sourcing from those Moira Biotic Orbs, or if Dagasim is still doing a good job of eating them. Delvine is still staying on this Doomfist, so it's still going to be very hard for HM to find footing. More importantly, because of that EMP.
EMP will take, I think, almost everybody. And Dagasim able to find 2 in it. Was able to find somebody before that EMP came out, but it doesn't matter if you find that many eliminations. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Yax, they know, has ultimate as well. Graviton Surge comes out here, but Sound Barrier will keep everybody alive, and Yax falls before he can use his ult. So this cart will start again with 1:03 left to go. They are going to get one more recontest regardless of this, but we're entering that last fight territory.
I admire Delvine's attempt to defy gravity, coming down with the Seismic Slam next to the Graviton Surge back. Actually about to have a Meteor Strike. Suquinho Nation still staying on this 2-2-2 composition. They're about to have the Nano Boost. Renkyoshi actually falling incredibly low. Needs to get some healing, but they are restabilizing almost. But Hex with the damaging Biotic Orb finds all the healing. TSN, that is devastating.
That could be what makes the difference here with 36 seconds left. We could see ourselves a map 5 self-destruct. I think that was just to keep Matt for Svenko. He didn't want to lose it here for this crucial final fight that's about to happen with 27 seconds left to go. Suquinho Nation wanting to keep their playoff hopes alive and stay in that 4th spot. They don't want to allow INTZ to have any chance of getting in.
Yax is just playing whack-a-mole, looking for the Somber hiding behind. Comes on stealth, finds a key hack on Yax. Graviton Surge is about to come out here from Drusker. Finds 2-3 tanks.
They get caught in there, and the eliminations following
Nice.
as well. Dagasim in desperation uses the self-destruct and only finds 1 thanks to the EMP, but they're losing this fight. Overtime meters starting here. We're going to have ourselves a map number 5 as it ties this back up.
INTZ Esports will not be denied. They are looking stronger than ever. They're coming out on compositions that we have not seen. They are playing true 3-3 here. Labosco and absolutely punishing TSN for their mistakes. Staying out on that 2-2. HM was trying his best to flex out there on the Mei for such a long time, but it was kind of the reversal sweep, right? Originally, it was TSN on their defense. They wanted to play that cheeky triple DPS composition to no avail, and now it was HM on the Mei. It really worked out to shave off a lot of time for all the way to that final fight where HM finally came out of the Brigitte, the true 3-3 composition. But more importantly, you got to tip your hat to Hex, really staying on that Moira and really making it work too. Utilizing the terrain for those Biotic Orbs is really the answer when you're facing a diva of Dagasim's caliber that has been shutting down those orbs in the past. When to use them and when to not. More importantly, when to look down and to sending straight up to force the diva to fly in to shut down the healing rather than sending them forward.
I'm just shocked that a comp where you know you're losing worked so well. That's still the thing that stands out to me to the most. I mean, for that whole thing, Panda, was you know you're losing the fight. You know that the Pharah is going to build up to that barrage, is going to take you down, but they took so much time off and it took so long for Suquinho Nation to do it. By the time they got to the final point, it didn't really matter. Yeah,
by the time that they got there, they didn't have the ult economy that they wanted either because of how long INTZ were allowed to keep their fight going. You can see TSN here on their defense, just these cheeky picks didn't work out to their benefit. I mean, the Winston was hanging out for too long. They tried to force their hand on dive, and you almost got to wonder that if they came out onto that true 3-3 composition where we saw them really stick it to INTZ in that final moment, that they probably would have held them for a little bit longer. But they pushed their luck, and they wanted to try out something entirely different. It didn't really work out. INTZ, on the other hand, they did that cheeky composition with the Mei, and Suquinho Nation, they really didn't know how to deal with them. I mean, sure, they knew to go to the other side, but as a whole, you really just need to dive in there and just kind of pray that you get 1 or 2 big picks with the Pharah and the Winston with the Diva micro missiles and just kind of hope. Yeah,
they dove in too far sometimes though.
Exactly.
Too. Like Delvigne was inside the room using the barrage, and I mean that's just asking for yourself to have a Diva fly into your face or just somebody to walk into you because of how close it is. Here's the thing, Panda. We're going to Nepal. We already know that.
Right.
We know that INTZ has already been there twice. They haven't been able to win on Nepal at all, but they're the team with the experience here. This will be the first time going into a map 5 for the side of Suquinho Nation. Is that an advantage for INTZ or no?
It all depends on the rotation of the stages. I think if we go to Sanctum first, I think we could see TSN really take a clear-cut advantage just from the Orisa play alone that we've seen from these 2 tanks in particular today. Jules has flex onto that Orisa in past, so it's very possible that they gain a nice advantage from that. More importantly, TSN, they just seem a lot stronger when there's not really an objective at play. Take away from Hanamura. all things included. They're really good at focusing on the kills and then the objective first. And I think when you take control at a whole, that's where TSN would really shine, especially through how flexible you can force Shrine from Nepal to be. The really only clear 3v3 or GOATS map would probably be Village. And that'll probably be where INTZ stand out the most because they seem to be playing GOATS most effectively today. Labasco and Suquinho Nation, they seem to really want to force out these double main healer compositions. I mean, the swapping of the Zenyatta, I'm not really all for, but when you can have Rankyoshi on the Ana and have Negofish on the Zenyatta, that is a lot of damage and a lot of sustainability that Jules, the main tank of TSN, has.
I think another thing to point out about that too, though, is we've seen 3-3 work really well, though, for Suquinho Nation. I mean, look at map number 1 that we had here in Busan. You saw the better 3-3 team be at that point. It was Suquinho Nation. It kind of started to swing the other way as we got into the middle of the game. But I don't know. It seems like it's a coin flip for both of these teams whenever they play mere comps. It's just whoever who's Zarya is gonna have less of their grabs eaten almost.
I think it's most important to point out just Delavine on the Brigitte might not be as comfortable because he hasn't been playing it with his previous team of that hasn't been as previously played with when he was with Lubbock on the previous iteration of TSN. So I think there's that certain level to it as well. So we might see maybe a little bit of flex, probably not wishful thinking, perhaps for a Super McCree comp to come out on Shrine or Sanctum. But I think when you get down to Adele Vine's composure and working with the main tank with his team, it has been a big standout. But then you take that and you take a look at the other team of INTZ Sports on that final moment of Route 66, it was exactly that. It was HM coming back with the Shield Bash combination with Yax onto Jules, and you almost got to think that if you're TSN and you're taking a look at what just lost the last team fight, you almost got to be asking themselves the same questions. Like, that's the flavor of coffee that we strayed away from on this map, but should we go back to it for this one of Nepal?
I think they do, don't they? Because, I mean...
You should,
They were just so far behind by the time they got to that third point that it really didn't matter. And the alt economy advantage was still to INTZ because they didn't make as many swaps. So I think you probably go with it still, right? Because you still... Well, you don't always look like the stronger team with it. It seems like So the sum of INTZ's parts sometimes is greater than the sum of the parts of Suquinho Nation. But the individual parts of Suquinho Nation seem stronger than the individual parts of INTZ, if that makes sense.
I think the most important part, and to break it down even further, is that when you take a look at the team and how composed they can be with utilizing the ult economy, and you saw it from TSN in the final moment of Route 66, just how composed they were and how late they had to use their support ultimates versus INTZ Esports, or just trying to throw everything they possibly can into a team fight and seem to be coming out on top of it because TSN are overstepping their boundaries at the end of a team fight. I think when you get down to those core levels of 3v3 that we're seeing a very even matchup, only time will tell. Because as we're loading into Shrine as our first stage, Labasco, it is that mirror matchup that we were speculating.
And mirror matchups, you definitely know what you have to look for here. Look at the Zaryas, look at the Brigittas, and look at the Reinhardts. Who falls first? Who's able to get the shield bashes out? And how do they use those bubbles? HM aggressive with his, and that'll lead to Jules falling early on at the beginning, and that will cause Suquinho Nation to quickly just go away. Delavine is going to jump off the map even, just to make sure that no all charge can be taken from him.
He didn't want to get caught out, didn't want to stall out his spawn any longer. Once the Reinhardt's down, you might as well just give over the first capture point. They're already on 3-3. Not a whole lot of ult charges already thrown over, so INTZ Sports are going to have to rely on this Shatter to be absolutely massive if they want to hold aggressively here. Jules is not going to have one in the next team fight. And TSN, however, very interesting decision. They're playing very passively here when I would expect them to be the more aggressive team. INTZ Sports, Yax, and HM, they are being more than aggro.
We know the percentages are always in favor of the team that wins that first fight. Will that continue to hold true is the only question. Out comes the Earth Shatter. When you have a Shatter Bash combo like that, that definitely swings the percentages to you as a triple kill comes through for Yax.
Big shield bash from HM on the Yax like we were talking about. Both the Brigitte and Reinhardt for both these teams are doing the same thing, but this time around, it seems that HM and Yax have really warmed up to each other. They've grabbed their hot cocos, they came over to Nepal, and they sat down together for a wonderful shield bash Earth Shatter combo. Founds 4, taking a dirt nap from Suquinho Nation, And now INTZ Sports have a real solid chance of pushing this into the last team fight territory against TSN.
We got to see Drusker trying some advanced tech there. Did not work out for him. He was trying to get up there to maybe hide to use the grab, but he still gets it out anyways. He threw it right in with no fear. Self-destruct won't get that shield down of Jules. Transcendence keeps them in this fight, so there's still a chance here for Suquinho Nation to get this flip, especially now they use their grab, but the Earth Shatter will stop them from pushing into it. So the grab doesn't go for anything here. It's all about what can happen with Jules' Shatter. Has to be careful that he doesn't fall. Self-destruct a little bit late, and Jules swings his hammer into HM, so that could be what starts this finally getting back for Suquinho Nation. Swinging still into and taking him very close with Svenko, but Jules was close to falling as well. Still looking for his opportunity here to use his Earth Shatter. Gets grabbed in, but his team still getting the eliminations all around. 94% though for INTZ.
Tactical. I like it, Delia. Very tactical. INTZ Sports, however, Drusker, I'm gonna wish that he had that Graviton Surge in his pocket for the next fight, because now Darkin's about to have his own. TSN, however, very interesting play out there for the Graviton Surge that originally came out. The way that the bodies were piled into that Graviton dog pile, everybody was still safe. The stun still came through onto the Reinhardt, but everybody was still alive. This Suquinho Nation, they're looking to hold here. They need to get the shield bash in there, but it only finds the Brigitte aggressively holding forward.
Yeah, it was a really nice bubble to make sure that the Reinhardt didn't fall. Dago's team will find two, though, as the grab does come out for Suquinho Nation, and there, that all-important Graviton Surge being used early, like you said, Panda, does come into play.
It really hurts too. Hex was at 97% when he got eliminated to the Transcendence, so now they have an opportunity to use one of their Explorer ultimates very aggressively. Sure, they're going to use HM's Rally to give an extra buff over to Yax, who needs to charge an Earth Shatter. They're going to need Earth Shatter or Graviton Surge if they ever hope to take this point back, Labasco, and gives us one more team fight and one more team kill for INTZ Sports, and they'll win this map. Suquinho Nation, however, they're holding very firm.
Trying to get that. Oh, Hex is able to get a Destruction Orb in onto Jules, and that will trans into this fight. That might force these players back away for Suquinho Nation. They're going to have to try and stall those somehow. 5% separating here. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get back on. 97%, 98. Can anyone touch? And oh, Dago's team's able to get there just in time to start the overtime meter. But can the players coming back in get back onto the point and flip this around? There's a grab right there to grab them all as they come in, charging in, and shield bashing is HM to give this first point to INTZ. They will win the all-important Shrine matchup.
INTZ Sports, they are on a tear here, Labasco. They will not be denied. They want their first series victory here today. They are one stage away from claiming it against TSN, one of the stronger tank compositions that we have seen in this region so far. And that would be not only a huge upset to me personally, but a fantastic confidence boost to INTZ Sports coming back through. Really coming into their own. The flexibility chain seems to be coming over to Village. Svenko, of all things, is going to be flexing onto this Hanzo. Highly unlikely that he does it, but it would be very fun if we get to see it. All things considering, he's not going to have a Zarya to combine into, because INTZ Sports are coming out here on a core dive concept with Yax on the Winston, Drusker on the Diva, a Mercy with a Pharah in the sky, HM off the Brigitte this time. Suquinho Nation, they're surely going to be caught off guard by this composition.
And something to think about as far as setting up the stage for where we're going to next here in Village. If INTZ Esports wins this, they have an even map record with Suquinho Nation. That would mean that they are almost in the potential to be in a playoff spots, depending on what happens with Quad Gaming. So this is so big for them as well. Svenko gets Ray and Kiyoshi at the beginning. They're stuck in that little room. What are they going to do?
Just fire, headshot level, Hanzo play at your service, and now they are absolutely stuck in here between a rock, a hay bale, and a very, very difficult play. So they just speed boost onto the point, but they're already down. They have hardly any sort of sustainability and getting absolutely obliterated. Svenko is doing so much damage. He already has a Dragon Strike available. Surely all the control is already over to INTZ Esports or over to Suquinho Nation, but INTZ are surely going to take this first capture point. Labasco, TSN, they are taking swaps. Rain Kiyoshi is just like, no. That's a lot of damage. Storm Arrow does a lot of damage. Listen, we need more healing. Gonna go over to the Moira now. Drusker has to be more patient with his defense matrix to shut down the healing, the burst healing from the Biotic Orb, now from Rankiyoshi. TSN without any ultimates. Oh! Swaps across the board. Super McCree comp with a core dive. Jules looking to create space for Della Ding to come back.
And HM already getting dinked. Svenko did get that Dragon Strike. He eliminated 3 players on his own at the start of that fight after the first initial pick. Oh, nice. They're coming in and they're getting just quickly blanked thanks to those arrows coming through from Svenko and the damage from HM.
And what are you going to do? Poor Darkin down there on the Brigitte. This is what we wanted to see, right? Delavigne onto this McCree composition, but this is where they found themselves at a deficit last in Route 66. They relate to swap to these compositions. They wanted to still roll out for, even if it's just for 10 or 15% or seconds rather, that's still control meter over to INTZ Esports and ult economy that they can still play with their favor. Svenko still has his Dragon Strike available. More importantly, Yax can dive in here. He has a Farm Rage. He can stay here for hours.
They're able to avoid the Dragon Strike, but players are starting to get close to falling. They're being forced into a corner, which is exactly what you want as a incredible use of 2 ults. 2 I'm trying to say Farah's name. So another cleanup fight, 67%. It's so close to keeping their playoffs hopes alive.
They win this next team fight, Labasco. They win their first series, and they walk away with an even map score victory. A hope, a shot in the dark for playoff contention, baby. INTZ Esports, however, they don't have any ultimates available. They use their support ultimate, their tank, and DPS ultimate in that last fight. Cosma needs to get enough healing off so that we can have a defensive sound barrier. Rank Kyoshi over to the Ana this time. Warburg's healing now for Suquinho Nation. They're playing for a Nano Blade, but it might be too late.
Jules able to get Svenko at the beginning of the fight, so one of the players that was one of their biggest problems already gone. They now get the Tracer onto Yax, back onto the point as it's about to get to 99% here for the side of INTZ Esports. Self-destruct onto the point. They want to make sure they get this. Have to be careful not to come off that point and let that overtime meter go. Svenko back in the fight. Oh, he's able to find one. Oh, there's still a chance here. Oh, they got to get back on. Oh, they almost lost that there. They get back just in time before that overtime meter comes out. But you have them just going to be able to take it right back, potentially for INTZ.
Yeah, you got to give them space, right? Delavigne had to come back clutch and just deal with the members that were left over, but there were no supports available for either team. As Suquinho Nation, Jules, he has to use his Primal Rage just to sustain himself on the point. His healers have just made it back. Rank Kyoshi now pocketing his wins. The flip goes over to INTZ.
He couldn't get back on with his Primal Rage. They have to be careful here. If they come off the point, they're going to lose this, and that could be the end of their game. No. Overtime meter going here. Miss with that Pulse Bomb. Now looking for Cosma. Out comes the Barrage on the other side. Primal Rage forces players off. Overtime meter starting to go. Still have that Tracer to deal with, but it looks like they're going to be able to do it. INTZ Esports, they're going to get this one here. They start to crowd spam as HM. They keep their playoff hopes alive.
They shut down the playoff blockage that TSN wanted to hold, and they show that they are alive in this region. Labasco, big play coming out there at the end. Svenko and Darkin, they were firing off on all cylinders, recognizing when each team didn't have a Brigitte, forcing off that Tracer. It really worked out early or in that last team fight. For TSN, they came back onto that GT dive concept. I almost forgot what that composition even looked like with the Genji and the Tracer, but they came back. They punished INTZ for not having the Brigitte, as they infamously hate to run. But then INTZ Esports, they woke back up. They came back on their own GT dive. Svenko threw out the Dragon Strike, and then he came back on the Tracer and just obliterated the backline. Rank Kyoshi came back on the Ana, and you are just a very sad grandmother in that backline because you can't do anything against a Tracer when she's blinking around you like Svenko just was.
It's incredible. I mean, the comeback the way that they did, keep their playoff hopes alive, too, for INTZ. For Suquinho, they're in such a tough spot now, too, being even with map score. And if you're even with map score and INTZ, and it's between Suquinho and INTZ for that last spot, well, it's going to go to the team that won the match between the two. So INTZ is in a great position here. They still have a little bit of some control over their own destiny. Of course, it depends on what happens with Quad after this. But to break down all of that and more, we have an awesome desk, Palatable, Nauri, and of course, our host. And Katrina, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you so much, Panda and Labasco. We are absolutely shocked and excited from that last matchup coming there. The 2-0 victory on Nepal, solidifying INTZ victory 3-2. Nauri, you almost predicted it. You got the map count right, but oh my goodness, absolutely brilliant, especially coming from Svenko. Let's first talk about that last map on Nepal. Now, Paulsable, I know you were a bit unhappy with TSN's composition for most of this time. Why?
I wasn't really unhappy with... Oh, you mean the last one? Village.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was unhappy with their composition. They roll out... So first they roll out on the goats, right? Which you can expect them to do. It takes them a bit to switch up. And when they finally do, they go to the Super McCree. Now, don't get me wrong. Delavigne, very good on hit scan. We have him nicknamed as Delading for a reason, right? Always hitting headshots. But the problem is, against a Hanzo and a Pharah, the Brig in the Super McCree comp does absolutely nothing, right? It's not going to protect you. It's not going to stop dives. It's just going to sit there and go, oh no, I have to wait 500 more health with my shield before I die, right? So they finally switched to the dive, but it's just too late for them to make a real impact. And even if it had been a real impact, honestly, INTZ had more than enough time. They could have just gone back to the spawn and switched to goats.
And right there, we did see some interesting compositional choices, let's just say, on Route 66, also coming in from INTZ. Now, Ari, I know that one of your favorite heroes in the entire game was used with her igloo abilities. Can you explain the igloo composition, please?
That is one of the most fun compositions to watch, but it is so dumb. But I love it. It is amazing. And you start out with Reinhardt, who's got his shield up. You know, that's how you contest payload, because Reinhardt's on the payload with his shield up. Sounds fair. Gets a bubble from the Zarya, no problem. Maywall, which somehow still allows you to contest payload from behind a wall. I mean, it's so ridiculous. And then once the wall goes down, May ice blocks, and her big old ice block creates yet another barrier in that cave. So it blocks a hell of a lot of damage. All that Suquinho could do was send Delavigne into the back on Pharah and try and get some pick-offs. And they actually did manage to get a couple of picks off, but it wasn't enough. Delavigne still went in there and used rocket barrage on the entire enemy team, got 2 or 3 picks, and it still wasn't enough. We had Sombra run in there and EMP everybody, and you guessed it, it still wasn't enough. I mean, the whole point of that composition, as Paulswell was saying during the match itself, the composition is not meant to win. The composition is meant to stall for as long as humanly possible. And when you get to that last little moment of time, you swap up onto something like goats or whatever, and you just roll over, and the time clocks down, and GG, we win these. And they executed it so well. And the thing is, the Pharah works well as a counter. The Sombra works well as a counter, but it takes time. You have to wait for those ultimates to charge up. Sombra runs in there, gets an EMP, literally catches one person. That ultimate is wasted, and the igloo continues. It's such a crazy composition to try and deal with. They even tried to go with the Doomfist as a counter, but the Mei just continually freezing him, stopping him in his tracks. It worked out stupidly well for them. And then when they got onto third point, they realized, cool, now we can swap it up. There's very little time left. We just have to hold off, and they managed to do it. Incredible plays.
That was one of the happiest I've ever been. One of the happiest times we've had at the desk together. But there was other compositions that really were more traditional, I would say, but not necessarily to South American contenders. So we did see on Hanamura, TSN running the classic Orisa composition with the Widowmaker and the Junkrat against, once again, that Mei coming in from INTZ. So, Possible, why does that bunker composition, why did that work so well against INTZ this time around?
So the idea of the bunker composition is that you want to sit there, use the Orisa and your Diva to toggle on and off point while you wait for one of 2 win conditions. Either the Junkrat tire, which against Goats is probably going to find at least 2 kills, right? But even if it finds 1, that can be enough. Or you wait for Darkin on that Widowmaker to find headshots. Now, originally, I actually really liked the fact that INTZ rolled out on the Mei, right? I thought it was a great way to deny Darkin sightlines and shut down that long-range spam damage because the Mei wall has so much health. They didn't quite play it optimally, and once they got onto the point, because they never were able to go out and actually kill Suquinho Nation, right? Which is why Suquinho ended up getting that full hold. Especially when the swaps came through and they decided to get rid of the Mei, which in my opinion was one of their strongest components of their composition against the bunker comp. But honestly, I've got to give it to INTZ. All throughout the second half of the series, especially, their macro plays and their tactical decision making, like their pre-planned decision making, was very good. We don't see a lot of teams roll out with the Mei on Hanamura on offense to deny sightlines like they did. We don't see a lot of teams use the Igloo comp beyond that very first hold and just buy time and time and time again. I think there were, four different places where they used the Igloo? 5? Yeah, it's crazy value that most teams wouldn't risk trying to get out of that. They would just go to Goats and, when in doubt, Goats it out kind of thing, right? And I think their new coach really has done a good job of giving them that level of preparedness that they were lacking.
And Naori, I was about to say, how much impact does coaching have on these small decisions? Do you think that really this new roster change, I suppose more behind the scenes, was a really important aspect of INTZ's victory here?
I think that putting Darkin onto that DPS role was definitely a good move. We saw some phenomenal stuff coming out from him. Dagostim on that Diva. I mean, I can immediately see why they picked him up as an off tank. Not just because Darkin is a good DPS, but because Dagostim is such a good Diva.
Right.
It just fell into place. Really good decision making there from their coach. And again, a good coach can make all the difference in the world, and I feel like we just saw it. I predicted a 3-2 loss for INTZ, and they came up with a 3-2 win. They, out of the ashes, man, proper Phoenix story. They came through with 3 losses, and here we are in week 4, new coach, new strategies, new ideas, new micromanaging and new macromanaging, and they come up with their very first win against a pretty strong team in Suquinho Nation. So I'm really impressed with that. Yes, coaching can make a huge difference, especially when you have players that are willing to learn. Because a coach means nothing if the players think they're smarter than you, if the players think that you don't know what you're talking about. But as soon as you have those players that are willing to learn, that are just there to soak up all of that information and implement it in every single way that you can possibly envision, then you get INTZ esports phenomenal improvement.
So are you saying there's... Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna quick interject. This is the 3rd time that INTZ has gone to a map 5 this season, and they finally win one. So that's gotta feel good for the morale.
Hell yeah.
No, it makes a huge difference. But first, we have to take a quick break before we end up with our final matchup of the night. I think it's going to be another close one. We'll be right back.